Good boy, Tucker.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Work smarter where you want.
Consistency is key.
And remember, if it's not in Redtail, it never happened.
This is learning at its most fun.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. My name is Catherine Beltran, and I'm one of the trainers here at Redtail Technology. Today, we're going to be discussing our Redtail Essential on accounts. So I know we are working through this crazy coronavirus pandemic, and I hope we're all kind of doing our best to kind of, whether it is really quarantine or social distance ourselves. I greatly appreciate everyone who's taken the time to listen in on this particular session. At first, I thought I was going to honestly be talking to myself, so I really appreciate everyone listening in on this session as we cover our Redtail Essentials accounts. So before I actually hop into our CRM, I do kind of want to mention that there's a couple ways as far as getting accounts into the CRM. You can either do it the old school way, kind of a manual, hey, let me just plug and chug as I go type of thing. Nothing wrong with that. You definitely can. Just keep in mind you're always going to have to manually update it, of course. And your second option on getting those accounts in is actually going to be through an integration. Now, there's quite a few options out there now as far as integrations go, whether that's directly through your broker dealer or through like a custodian, like, or I know a very popular one's kind of like Allbridge. Those are another ways that you can actually get those accounts to feed in manually. So before, again, I pop into that CRM, I just want to reiterate that there's two ways to get into the CRM. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pop in to our CRM, which I'm sure we are all very glad is a cloud-based system this week. I don't know about everyone else, but we are definitely enforcing that whole work where you want. I know all of us have been kind of quarantined to our house, or again, social distance to our house. So it's still really great that I can still pop into our system and see, oh, hey, what's my AUM or what's my accounts at really kind of this point in time. So to start off actually on this today page is our AUM and our accounts button. Now, if I actually click on the AUM button here or the accounts, it's going to bring me to that same page. But I do want to point out that, hey, either or, it's mostly a matter of preference. It's going to be whatever you really like. So I'll go ahead and I'm just going to pick on the AUM button because why not? But in here, what I really wanted to focus on is a couple of things. First off, this is kind of your big overview as to what you've got going on in your world here. All of these tabs at the top here, this open, pending, under review, and closed, or actually they're not really tabs, the buttons. Those are all clickable like any button should be. But what's really unique when you click on something like open is it's actually almost going to like redirect you to our reports page where it gives you those accounts by status filtered to that particular status. So it's kind of a way to jump ahead to that report if that's something you're looking for. I know it's kind of one of those things that a lot of people, they're afraid to click it. And I'm like, it's not a big old red button you got to be afraid of. Click the button. So clicking that open or clicking those pendings, it's going to redirect you towards, again, that kind of report. Below that, again, is kind of your account summary. And below this down here is your accounts by type. Now, before I really say that, hey, this is a good place to really see what you got divided in your system, I do want to clarify that your accounts by type is something that you personally control, meaning what you set your accounts to is really what's going to show up here. If you never actually change what the account type is or never clearly define it, this isn't exactly helpful. Also, keep in mind that your accounts by type, while that list is quite extensive, it's honestly really a large section, you can still update and add your own types of accounts within that managed database list section. Now, I'm sure you've probably stumbled across multiple videos where we've referenced this, but just always keep in mind that whenever we say managed database list, you do have to be an admin to actually make changes and updates within that managed database list. But if you are an admin or if you know who your admin is and you see like there's an account type that's not listed and it's something that you want in there, you can actually have someone, again, come on up to their name, come down to manage your account and head down to that managed database list to add that new type. But once you do have kind of like organization going on in your system, this is really kind of that breakdown via pie chart, or if you're kind of like me where a pie chart's not the best look, I'm more of a chart person, this is where we can actually come in and get that list version for us as well. So again, just kind of that great spot if you are already organized for it to really get that going and see kind of that overview picture of your accounts by type. Over on the right-hand side, kind of pulling in what I had already mentioned with those integrations. If you do have an integration turned on, again, whether it is like that custodian or aggregator of some kind, they actually come into the CRM originally as an unlinked account. So I know sometimes there's kind of like this fearful call that our support team gets, or sometimes on the training team, where we're like, Catherine, I turned it on. Where are my accounts? I don't see them. And I'm like, okay, don't panic. Don't panic. It's okay. Come to your unlinked accounts. Most likely they're going to be in here, and you just actually have to link them. So when I clicked on my unlinked accounts, it's going to go ahead and give me all of those accounts that have been fed in from that custodian or aggregator, rather, like Allbridge or something like that, where we'll see those account types coming in. Now, I know there's probably a couple of concerns out there that are like, oh my God, I have to link all of these manually. No, no, you definitely don't. If you see something like this particular example where there's that little red asterisk to the side, that actually means that there is a tax ID in the system with a contact that it matches. So if I actually click this run auto link, it's going to go ahead and move that account on over to those accounts. Always keep in mind, mine's a test database, so this thing can be a little crazy at times, but yours, as long as there's that red asterisk, you run auto link, it's going to immediately connect kind of those accounts and that contact together. Now, if you don't see that red asterisk, kind of like something like this, then that usually is for a couple reasons. One, it could be that the contact themselves are not in the system. That's easily ratified. Come on up here, quick add that contact, and then you can go ahead, add that text ID to the contact, and then run auto link from there. So that's one way. One contact's not in there. A second reason that I commonly see is the tax ID is actually not on the contact file. So just quickly adding it to the client, again, come back in here, run auto link, and it's going to go ahead and match those up. The third reason, a typo. It happens. I get fat fingered all the time, and I think I put the right number in, and then I come back later and go, whoops, that was way off. No worries. Correct the typo. Again, come back here, run auto link, and you're fixed. Now, the fourth reason could be that it's not going to match. Maybe that's something like a joint account, where it's just not going to match the tax ID. That is the one time where you are going to want to come over and manually link that account over. Now, you only have to do it the first time. You don't have to come in here every morning and relink it. It just has to establish that connection the first time. So if you come on over to that action icon just to the left of the account title, you'll come on down, you'll see link to a contact. So from here, you can actually come on in and search for that person. So we'll see. Oops, I think I actually got a little too many hells there. We'll find the contact, link it to them directly, and then link the account to the contact. And then that way it's gone ahead and manually linked it. So that's kind of those couple of reasons and ways that you can go about with those unlinked accounts. But again, if you do have the integration turned on, naturally by first it will come over to this unlinked account. So again, to get there, either click the accounts at the top or the AUM button, either or it's going to get you back to this page. Come on over to unlinked accounts and then proceed forward from there, whether that's the auto link or that manual method from there. So now that we've kind of gone over this overview, or rather kind of just established that foundation, let's actually hop into an account because this is a good part to start, but I'm sure a lot of you want to actually see when we're in a contact record. So I'm actually just going to pull up someone I've recently been in. I'm going to pull up good old Tim Taylor, and then we're going to come on over to accounts on the right-hand side. I'm sorry, the left-hand side. I know my directions today. Left-hand side. Actually, before I even do that, I do want to point out over on the right-hand side, see, subconsciously, I think I knew, I do want to point out that you will see kind of at this like banner at the top, you will see this portfolio balance over here. So you don't even have to technically click into the account. If that's just something you need a quick glance, if you're on the phone with them, or maybe they're in the office with you, probably not at this point in time in our lives, but over the phone, if you're talking to them and you need to know about it, right on over to the right, you have that quick balance. But now let's actually hop on over into our accounts on the left-hand side. And these are all of the accounts strictly for Tim Taylor that we're looking for. Now, again, always keep in mind, mine's a test database, so we are really fluffy with our numbers. So right at the bottom, we can actually see all of our account balances added up, and we'll see that, hey, Tim Taylor's doing pretty good in life with his the Tool Time show. So we'll see that balance down in here. Now, again, referencing earlier to my first method of adding in a manual account, to do that, you'd actually come on up to add account right on up here. So we'll get our first series of blanks. We'll start off with our account numbers, company, product, and then this is actually where we'll have that type option. So as you can see, it's quite a list. It's rather lengthy to start off with. But again, if you don't see what you're looking for and you know that, hey, this is something I want to keep track of, by all means, add it in there. You're not limited to that. So definitely customize it to what works for you. And then over on the right-hand side over here, you have those check boxes over for like those tax qualified, discretionary managed, and held away. Now, if you've already gone in and you've added it, and maybe you just forgot to check off a box or something like that, when you click into the actual account itself, oh, we'll get Frank, just kidding. We'll come back and hopefully restart this back in. Let me just refresh the page. We'll see if this wants to cooperate. There we go. there it is. We'll immediately see kind of again that overview of what we filled in. But if you actually click back into the account number right at the top here, you'll get that same pop-up we had when we add it manually. So that way we can come over and check off those particular boxes. With that said, similarly, when you have an integration turned on, by default, it's not going to check off those kind of tax qualified and manage those. So if that's something that you want to have kind of flagged, like we saw on that first page, you are going to want to just come in here and then check those off, come to the bottom, and then update those accounts. That way you can see it checked on that page. But coming in, what you will see when it comes over from an integration, by all means, an asset name, symbol, shares, and price, which will then give you that balance over to the right-hand side. All right, so now that I've gone over again that kind of overview, scrolling on down, this is where, again, you can kind of add your own details in here. So you'll have those basic information. Again, those kind of checked off boxes, if you've already had them flagged off, will show up here. And then coming on down, if you have any beneficiaries you want to add in, definitely can add them in from this page. And then scrolling back up, we still do have those by states. Now, while it's not explicitly labeled here, I have seen people kind of start to reach out to me to ask, like, hey, maybe this is a spot I can use for that whole Reg BI. By all means, definitely feel free to use the system with what sections we have available for you. If you're going through this, though, and you're like, okay, this is all helpful, well, I can fill in this beneficiary, I can fill in those by states, I can fill in ownership. If you find that it just doesn't exist, it's a field that's not there, and you're like, well, I want to be able to report off of it, that's when I'm going to say, come on down to the bottom and you'll see this account user defined field. So if you're kind of familiar with those contact user defined field, similar in concept, just strictly for accounts, it's kind of that Q&A section where it's like, hey, I want to track, maybe it's like, I want to track when someone took their RMD. That's a value that can go across multiple people, but the value of that particular answer is going to differ per each contact. So this is where, again, you can come on down here and create those account user defined fields. So I do actually want to clarify, it shouldn't be create, reverse my English there. You will create it still again within that managed database list, but this is where you will actually add that account user defined field for those accounts. So again, this is going to be something that you can completely customize, but I always like to point it out because on occasion I get those calls where it's like, these are all great, and yes, I'm definitely filling in what I can, but it still doesn't give me everything I'm looking for. That's kind of that catch-all that can be fit in with that account user defined field. So don't be hesitant to use this. This is really great to kind of keep track of those accounts. And it's definitely something that can be helpful because it is reportable in this particular section. While we're down here, I will actually point out, you will also find at the bottom of this particular section anything that has been kind of linked, I guess is the best way to phrase that, with this particular account. So if you have a note that you had added into the system and you click on that one, it's going to go ahead and immediately bring you to that note that has referenced that particular account. Similarly, we'll see if this goes back and doesn't get frank. Perfect. We'll come to the bottom. The same kind of situation, if I click on activities, it's going to bring me to that activity that again has linked that particular account. So it's again only applicable to what we've attached it to. So I always recommend popping on down here if you have an account that's pretty active, I guess is the best way to phrase that. You can see what's been directly kind of linked with it down here with this other section. Now, coming back up, I do actually want to kind of point out one more thing with ownership. I always do like to point this out because this is great for our joint kind of accounts that we have in here. Same with trust, actually. I know every now and then we'll get kind of those calls, well, how should I really handle trust? This technically I want one person to be the owner in, but I also need to add the joint. This could also be an applicable section that you can use for those trust accounts. So it's not as kind of like, hey, right here, go for it. But it is something that I kind of see across the board being used as a different spot that is applicable. So again, you're going to find things that are work and kind of molded to your particular office and how it works best for you. But if you do have kind of like those joint accounts, one thing I do want to point out, and I'm actually going to kind of go back to the accounts main page for Tim, is you can actually view family accounts as well. So if we're kind of over here on this right-hand side, we'll see this option, and you have the ability to show family accounts. So that way, if you have someone who has a spouse, instead of having to open up both contacts in two different tabs and toggling back and forth, while it's not difficult, it's kind of helpful to just have everything on one page, one quick glance. So when you have that show family on, I went from actually 6 to 12 accounts, so I actually doubled it here. But you're going to see this little flag itself that says family and then who it actually belongs to. So definitely, if you turn that on, it's just a quick way to, again, give you that quick glance on it. You'll also have the show non-primary joints account. Works kind of in the same way where you're going to see them kind of pop up if that is applicable. But again, if you don't like it, just as quick as simple as clicking that button again to hide those accounts. So just know that is something that you can have available. While we're actually on that, I do want to point out though that we do have some built-in integrations already in here. So there are some Morningstar reports found right here. There is also this reports button at the top. Now, I do want to kind of clarify here because our system is fantastic. I absolutely love our CRM and everything that we do with it. But I do really want to clarify that if you are looking for more of those in-depth count breakdowns with all the numerical data, everything like that, that's not really what our CRM is. Keep in mind, we're kind of like the hub of it. You might still need to go to those integrations for more of those in-depth kind of detailed numbered reports, but these are going to be kind of those quick, I always call them like my snapshots of them, where it's not as extensive. So I do just want to clarify that. But there are some, again, Morningstar reports in here. Because you can see up right at the top, we have our Riskalyze button. And then actually another thing that it's kind of not as well known, but I always like to point it out because it's just really cool, is our advisor world has actually built in some reports as well. And again, I know I didn't really point it out clearly earlier, so I do want to point it out. This is where you're going to, again, see the kind of those flags that you have checked off. So if you do have those tax qualified or managed, discretionary, anything like that, that will kind of show up in this section flagged right then and there. Similarly, when you have those show family accounts, it'll show the same concept for anyone who's in there as well. So don't feel like you have to go in every single time and kind of fix that for you. Wow. So I know I've thrown quite a bit of details for you. I do kind of want to shift gears a little bit actually and show you that yes, there are some reports. I know I said that ours aren't as like, hey, here's every breakdown of numerical cent to cent to cent type of thing. But we do still have some in here that I do want to point out for you. So over on the left-hand side, reports down here at the bottom, accounts are actually the first thing that pops up. We did already pop into that accounts by status when we clicked on that open earlier in the day. But we also do have quite a few on over here. So if you're ever curious by the unlinked without going to the unlinked, you have them here. If you want to know what's deleted, down here. We also have those top end reports located again kind of towards the bottom that you have right on over here. And then one thing that's kind of different, actually, it's not so much on this page. And if you've actually watched our advanced search page, it is something we referenced in there. You can also search a little bit off of the accounts as well. So back then I actually made a quick list. So I'm just going to pull it up and I'll kind of quickly reference what exactly it's talking about. But I'm going to come on over to my quick list from my recently viewed, come on down to my active clients with 500,000. And then we'll actually come up to our list. So again, this is that advanced search that I originally started off with. This is something that I was saying, hey, you know what, this is valuable enough that I want to have it saved as a quick list, a quick saved, and I have it as that quick list. So if you don't have something saved like this and you really want to, again, you come to contacts and advanced search, and then you're going to build out something like this, where I have my first layer of contact status equal to active client. And then I'm going to have my second layer with my account for my portfolio balance greater than or equal to 500,000. So I actually get 33 records down here. So quite a bit down here that I was actually not expected to get. So I'll come on down here and I'm going to show you something that's kind of hidden and I kind of love it a lot. But over under our contact options, we have this export option, which again, that's your Excel. You have this accounts by contact. So this particular button here, it's going to go ahead. I hope it looks like it downloaded. Here, give me a block here. Let me change my features here for a second. Accounts by contact will give me that button here. But why I want to show this to you is because if you get something like this, and they are manual accounts or there's something that we want to update in bulk, if you can actually get it to something like this where it'll have these details, you can actually make those changes into this Excel spreadsheet or this number spreadsheet, whatever you're using, and then actually send it to us and we can actually make those changes for you. With that said, though, the one thing we will need is this account ID and this contact ID. So those first two columns, do not delete. I'm going to stress this again. Do not delete these two columns. This is what we need to make those changes in bulk. So you can come in here though and say, okay, you know what? This actually should be all a particular account type. Maybe you just added one and you're like, I don't want to do this one by one. I don't blame you. I really don't. Come on in here, add that account type in here, and we'll go ahead and make those changes in bulk for you. Of course, the one thing I will also stress, besides not deleting column A and B, is ask for a secure link before sending this kind of secure data. So reach out to support, whether that's through that kind of help desk and then reaching out via a ticket, or if it's physically giving us a call saying, hey, I need a secure link set up because I want to send you an Excel spreadsheet to update in bulk. No problem, no foul. We'll send you that secure link, upload it, and then we'll do the kind of the grunt work for you in the background. But again, get that secure link. Don't delete those two columns. Now, the very last thing that I want to leave you with, because I know I've thrown quite a bit, I've kind of gone rapid fire here. But if you are interested in seeing like what we have for our integrations and you're just not even really sure to begin, always feel free to click on this question mark in the top right-hand corner. Come on down to our Redtail help desk and then come down to our Redtail CRM, the one that has the dog in the hammock. About halfway down the page, here we go. We've got our integrations tool. So if I just click on integrations, we can come on down here, come down to our portfolio management custodians, and we'll actually see what we have available. So again, I always recommend popping in here, seeing what we have. I will say though that every single integration, we call them our snowflakes for a reason. They are all very unique. So some of these integrations, you might not actually have to come to the manage your integrations section. They might be something where it's just a quick, hey, I need to call my broker dealer, say I have it. And it's something they do in the background with us to establish that connection. So really just depends on which one. I always recommend, like I said, popping into this integrations page to really see, because if you do click into some of these, I'll just click on All Bridge here, it'll actually tell you, hey, how do I set this up? So it'll let you know specifically so you're not kind of like lost in the woods trying to figure out what to do. come back here. It's going to kind of help. I consider it like the hand-holding type of thing. It'll help you with it. So again, each one's very different. So just to recap here, we went over our Today page, AUM accounts options. We went to a particular contact and went over those account sections. And then again, you have those reports available for you as well. And lastly, don't forget that you can actually search off of accounts. I do want to thank all of you for joining me today. I know it's definitely a crazy time we are living in, and I greatly appreciate having some people hop on the calls with me today. So again, as you can see, we are all social distancing ourselves at Redtail. We are working from home, so we are trying to stay as safe and healthy as possible. And I wish the same for all of you. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. If you have a chance to be kind to someone today, take it. We definitely need it at this time.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.